The woman pushed her car off a cliff. Her 2-year-old son was still inside. She wasn't crazy. She was desperate. It all started when her little boy accidentally pressed the button, activating the smart car's auto-lock system. In the blink of an eye, all the doors locked tight, trapping Mom outside. She panicked immediately and quickly jammed a wooden stick into the window. But the car window was so strong, it snapped the stick in half. Mother and son were completely separated by the car. Just moments before, Sandra, a former pop star, had suspected her music producer husband Carl was cheating. Upset, she took their son David on a road trip to LA in their new Monolith, a futuristic vehicle equipped with bulletproof glass and automatic locking doors. On a deserted highway, Sandra got distracted by her phone, swerved, and crashed into a deer. When she stepped out to check the damage, she realized David was locked inside the car. David had accidentally activated the car's vault mode. This security feature could only be unlocked using a smartphone. Sandra desperately instructed David on how to use the phone. Just one swipe on the button, and mother and son could be free. But David couldn't understand at all. He only tapped randomly on the screen. Sandra quickly grew impatient. She shouted instructions, losing her temper. David became scared, and the phone slipped right out of his hands onto the floor. Sandra completely broke down at that moment. They were stranded in the middle of a deserted wasteland. The dirt road they were on had no traffic at all. Only rocks and endless sand surrounded them. Sandra forced herself to calm down, attempting to speak with the car's smart system. But the system remained silent, just like a sealed bank vault, ignoring all external requests. Sandra grew frantic, almost losing her mind. She grabbed a rock, trying to smash the car window. After pounding away, the rock shattered, but the glass didn't even scratch. David, frightened by his mother's aggressive behavior, started crying. Sandra comforted him from outside the window. Realizing she needed to get help, Sandra walked further into the desert. Fortunately, she soon saw an electric charging station ahead, but the iron gate was locked, and no one answered her frantic calls. She decided to climb over, but lost her footing and fell painfully onto sharp rocks below. Enduring the pain, she got inside, but found it completely deserted. The phone there didn't work either. She searched around desperately and finally found a large wrench and a flashlight. She hurried back to the car, but wild animals howled around her. Worried about her son, she rushed back just in time to see a fierce wild dog prowling near the car. It turned to attack Sandra, forcing her to scramble onto the car's roof. She waved the wrench wildly, scaring it away. Then she swung the wrench with all her strength against the window. She smashed and smashed, but the car window didn't even budge. Sandra was completely exhausted. All she could do now was comfort David from outside until he fell asleep. The next day, the scorching sun baked the ground relentlessly. Sandra woke up to the blazing heat, instantly realizing the danger. Outside, the temperature soared to 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the car, it would be even hotter. Sandra quickly removed her top and placed it over the car's sunroof to block the intense sunlight. But David was still wearing heavy clothes. He was crying uncontrollably from the heat. Watching her son suffer, Sandra felt a deep sense of helplessness, feeling utterly useless. Yet, despite the agony burning inside her, she knew she couldn't just sit there waiting for death. Sandra suddenly remembered a road sign she had seen earlier. The sign had indicated an airport nearby. This could be their chance. Once again, she ventured out into the vast desert, but there wasn't a single soul in sight. She felt desperately thirsty and hungry. Then, unexpectedly, she heard the sound of running water. She followed the sound eagerly and actually found a small stream. Relieved, she took a sip, but the water was so bitter she immediately spat it out. With no choice, she continued onward, heading toward the airport. Sandra finally spotted an airplane in the distance, but when she approached, she realized it was just an abandoned wreck. Not giving up yet, Sandra climbed inside, desperately searching for anything useful. Sadly, the plane was empty. Only a few small bottles of whiskey remained. She drank a few sips to relieve her thirst and found an empty bucket that might come in handy. As she sat near the window, feeling hopeless, she noticed a pile of firewood below. She had an idea. With great effort, she pushed a rubber tire from the plane onto the ground, then set it ablaze. She hoped the thick black smoke would attract someone's attention and finally bring help. Sandra had to hurry back. David was still trapped inside the car. The temperature outside was 107 degrees Fahrenheit. She rushed to a small stream, filled up some water, and quickly headed back. But by the time she returned, David had already passed out from the heat. Sandra felt frantic and heartbroken. She quickly poured water onto the car's roof, hoping it would cool the vehicle temporarily. Then she lit a pile of dry wood, fanning the thick smoke toward the car's air intake, thinking the smoke would trigger the doors to open. Instead, the car's external air system shut down, risking suffocation for David. Realizing her mistake, Sandra hurriedly put out the fire. Frustration overwhelmed her. She grabbed a wrench and furiously smashed the car, but as expected, the car remained unharmed. Once she calmed down, she looked at David again. only to find him slumped forward with a flushed face, completely unresponsive. Sandra was devastated, overcome with guilt, feeling utterly hopeless. Just then, she saw David's finger move slightly. Joy instantly surged through Sandra, renewing her determination. But suddenly, a wild dog appeared out of nowhere, charging madly toward her. Terrified, Sandra crawled under the car, but the starving dog lunged, biting hard into her leg. Sandra screamed in pain, finally managing to kick free. The dog turned to feast on a dead deer nearby, previously hit by the car. Spotting an opportunity, Sandra quickly used the wrench to shove the deer aside, but now the car lost its support and began rolling backward. Sandra frantically crawled out, desperately pressing against the vehicle, trying to stop its slide. She pushed with all her strength, but her efforts were in vain. Just as the car was about to tumble off a cliff, a large rock caught the tire, stopping it in the nick of time. Sandra finally breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at David unconscious inside the car, Sandra felt her heart twist with pain. If she couldn't get the doors open, she might really lose her son. Glancing back toward the cliff, Sandra suddenly had a crazy idea. She decided to push the car over the edge, hoping the fall would break it open. The moment the car plunged off the cliff, the smart system instantly activated, blaring alarms. The gyroscope balance system kicked in, adjusting the car's position in midair. Then came a heavy thud. The car hit the ground. Sandra rushed down the cliff, only to find the car shockingly intact, just covered in a layer of dust. She broke down again, terrified of what the fall might have done to David. As she desperately banged on the door, she suddenly noticed the door appeared unlocked. She cautiously pulled the handle, and it opened easily. Sandra was overwhelmed with relief, quickly taking David out and carrying him to a shady spot to cool him down. While Sandra caught her breath, the car began a self-diagnosis. Moments later, it restarted itself, showing no damage at all. Sandra stared in disbelief. David was still unconscious. He urgently needed medical care. She carefully placed her son back inside, started the engine, and drove up from the bottom of the cliff. Soon they reached a steep slope filled with jagged rocks. Sandra immediately activated the car's all-terrain control. The chassis automatically lifted, and she floored the gas pedal.
Collision detected. Collision detected. Collision 200 feet. Please go on.
Finally, they escaped the danger. Upon arriving at the hospital, Sandra watched David slowly wake up. For the first time ever, he called her mother instead of just Sandra.